Good evening. I'm Dr. Patience Dean, creator of the Tree of Wealth Blueprint and founder of Generals Equipped. And tonight, I don't just want to talk to you about how to make more money. There are thousands of people who can teach you that. I want to talk to you about something much bigger. How do you build wealth, protect what you build, put that wealth to work, and create a structure that can continue working long after you're gone? Because making money is not the same thing as building wealth. And building wealth is not the same thing as building a legacy. A legacy requires structure. That distinction is really what the Tree of Wealth Blueprint is about. This is educational information. The appropriate legal, tax, insurance, investment, and estate planning professionals should be involved when these concepts are implemented. The Tree of Wealth began for me during one of the lowest seasons of my life. I had been homeless 3 times. I had lost everything repeatedly and had to rebuild 11 times. And during my 3rd experience of homelessness, I was sitting in a shelter. I had 11 days left before I had to leave. I remember praying and asking God, what am I doing here? And what came back to me changed my understanding of wealth. Everything I needed to prosper was not necessarily outside of me. There was something already inside of me that had to be developed. Then I saw this enormous tree. The top was filled with lights. To me, those lights represented everything we tend to want: opportunity, abundance, expansion, success. And then my attention was drawn downward to the roots. There were 3: wisdom, discipline, integrity. I understood something. Everybody wants the fruit. Very few people want to deal with the roots. But money magnifies. It doesn't fix. Without wisdom, more money can magnify bad decisions. Without discipline, more money can magnify chaos. Without integrity, it magnifies dysfunction. Sustainable success requires deep roots. Then my thinking shifted. I stopped asking, how do I make money? And I started asking, how do I build assets that produce perpetually? That's a completely different question. Most of us have been trained to think in terms of income. Go to school, get a job, earn more, work more. But income is dependent on the person. Assets can create value beyond your immediate labor. So the Tree of Wealth requires a shift from income thinking to asset perpetuity thinking. You have ideas, knowledge, experiences, skills, and intellectual property. The question is, how do I convert what I have into assets? That brings us to the visible part of the tree, the 5 wealth branches: business ownership, real estate, intellectual property, financial markets, and then the 5th branch, legacy infrastructure. The first 4 are where most wealth education stops. But the 5th branch asks, how do you turn what you build into something your family can preserve, steward, and pass forward? You can build $1 million company and lose it. You can build a real estate portfolio and lose it. You can create tremendous intellectual property and never properly transfer it. You can build an investment portfolio and never develop a generational plan around it. The 5th branch, legacy infrastructure, is what connects the other branches. This is where the Tree of Wealth Blueprint becomes different, because we're no longer talking simply about accumulation. We're talking about architecture. Now, let me show you how the tree works. When I talk about legacy infrastructure, I am talking about a 3-part ecosystem: the enterprise trust, the multi-generational trust, the mission advancement endowment trust. 3 structures, 3 different jobs, coordinated appropriately with qualified professional guidance. They operate as parts of one wealth and legacy ecosystem. Now, people are sometimes surprised by where we begin. We begin with mission. Why? Because focus on impact and build the income around the impact. Imagine somebody comes into Generals Equipped with very little. They can still have a mission. What problem do you want to solve? Who do you want to help? Maybe veterans, children, seniors, homelessness, or financial education. We begin developing the nonprofit around that mission. Then, as requirements are met, the nonprofit can pursue resources like donations and programs such as the $10,000 a month Google Ad Grant. And that's important because now you aren't waiting until you're wealthy to have impact. Impact becomes part of the ecosystem. Then we have the enterprise trust. This is the business side. Customers, contracts, operations, revenue, products, and services. The public interacts with the enterprise side. We don't want the same structure exposed to business activity to also be the one holding the family's long-term wealth. The operating entity creates income. The legacy structure holds and preserves assets. Now we come to the multi-generational trust. This is the family legacy side. Its purpose is different. This is where we ask, what belongs to the family legacy? What assets are intended to continue? What do we want future generations to steward? This is the place for assets intended to be passed down. It's also where the IUL is positioned as part of the long-term family wealth strategy. Notice what happened. We have separated 3 functions. Enterprise creates economic value, multi-generational stewards wealth, mission creates impact. Now you see the tree. Suppose your nonprofit has developed enough funding to appropriately compensate its director. That compensation becomes personal income. Instead of automatically consuming all of that income, the model asks, how can part of what I'm earning become part of the generational system? One strategy involves evaluating an appropriately structured IUL for the family strategy. The concept is, income can be converted into an asset intended for long-term family value. That nonprofit compensation is directed into an IUL owned within the family trust rather than simply being consumed. That process is repeated as the business grows. The enterprise produces revenue. The individual may legitimately receive compensation. Instead of allowing every dollar of that compensation to become lifestyle spending, part of it can again be positioned toward the family's long-term IUL wealth strategy. You now have multiple branches feeding the same legacy infrastructure. Compensation coming in from both the nonprofit and business sectors flowing into the IUL. That's what makes this a tree. But we're still not finished. Because I don't only want the family to survive, I want the mission to survive. That is where the endowment becomes so important. Imagine your nonprofit, the Dean Foundation. Mr. Dean creates it. The Dean Foundation serves people. It develops programs. It raises donations. It pursues grants. But what happens when the founder is gone? Does the mission die too? It doesn't have to. The goal is to build an endowment fund associated with the mission, to create a pool of capital designed to support this institution for generations. We strategically direct a portion of income into the endowment fund so the mission builds sustainability while the family builds wealth. You keep building the endowment until eventually you reach the perpetuity point, where the annual support generated can cover the nonprofit's operating needs without consuming the principal. The target is to build the endowment to a level where a 5% annual distribution can cover the nonprofit's annual budget. The foundation is no longer completely dependent on you. It now has an economic engine. When you're gone, the children can steward the foundation, and then their children. The family isn't merely inheriting money. They're inheriting a mission, an institution, assets, and responsibility. That is generational wealth. So now look at the whole thing. It's an ecosystem. The Mission Advancement Endowment Trust says, what impact are we going to create? The Enterprise Trust says, what economic value are we going to create? The Multi-Generational Trust says, what are we going to preserve and steward for the family? And the endowment asks, how can the mission itself continue perpetually? Family wealth is organized for future generations. Each generation is taught to become a steward. When I say, build wealth that outlives you, I'm not just talking about an inheritance. I'm talking about leaving infrastructure. Money can disappear, but a properly governed system can continue producing. Imagine leaving a wealth structure, businesses, real estate, IP, financial assets, insurance, a mission, an endowment, and the education to steward it all. Now we're talking about something very different. That is why we build, protect, multiply, transfer, sustain. When I was sitting in that homeless shelter, I didn't have all of this. I had to rebuild again and again. And I kept asking, how do I build this so I don't have to keep starting over? Then it became, how do I build it so my children don't have to start over either? How do I build something that can still be creating impact generations after I'm gone? That is the heart of the blueprint. So when I invite you into Generals Equipped, I'm not inviting you into another class with a notebook. I'm inviting you to begin building your tree, strengthen the roots, identify the branches, develop the mission, build the enterprise. The bigger question is, what can you build that continues because you existed? That is wealth, that is stewardship, and that is legacy. Your legacy does not begin someday. It begins with the structure you build today. If you're ready to build wealth that can outlive you, apply now to Generals Equipped.